Legends are made and legendary stories are written during the Stanley Cup playoffs, as players and teams pull off the impossible and the unlikely. Doesn't matter what the odds are, as at any given moment a team can rally for a comeback in a split second, or a player can find himself in the zone that elevates their team above the other. That's exactly what we at Vagabond Hockey plan on covering in this video, as we look at some of the biggest playoff upsets in NHL history. But of course, we must mention a small caveat, which is that we're only looking at series post-expansion era. Let's get started. In the 1975 Stanley Cup quarterfinal, New York Islanders would face off against the Pittsburgh Penguins, where the Islanders pulled off a rare feat as they came back from a 3-0 deficit. When the series started, Penguins had home court advantage as they were the higher seed, and they made sure not to give up their home court, as they won both home games, then stole the third game at the Nassau Coliseum. Things were looking bleak for the Islanders, as only the Toronto Maple Leafs had made this miraculous comeback. They did it all the way back in 1942, so there wasn't much belief that Islanders were going to advance to the next round. But that's when Al Arbour, the coach of the Islanders, pulled Billy Smith from the goal, who had allowed 14 goals in the first 3 games, and replaced him with Chico Resch. The series changed. Resch would save 27 out of 28 shots in Game 4, 36 of 38 shots in Game 5, 31 of 32 shots in Game 6, and post a shutout in Game 7, saving all 30 shots. Islanders would join the Maple Leafs as the only team to come back from 3-0, and to further demonstrate how incredible this feat is, only 2 teams have pulled off this comeback since the Islanders did it. In 2000, St. Louis Blues matched up against the San Jose Sharks, and it was a classic first seed against 8th seed matchup, where the first seed, the Blues, were heavily favored, having won the President's Trophy that year with 114 points. In the first game between them, two reflected the odds, with the Sharks taking home a 5-3 win, but in the second, Sharks tied it all up with a 4-2 win and shocked everyone. They continued the momentum by winning the next 2 games as well. Down 3-1, the Blues bounced back and sent the series to a Game 7. However, Game 7 set up the Sharks' defense to shine as they held the Blues scoreless in the first 2 periods, and their goalie, Steve Shields, would finish the game with 21 saves out of 22 attempts. The Sharks took home a 3-1 victory. This was a collective team effort from players like Owen Nolan, 6 goals, 2 assists, and 8 points, 2 game-winning goals. Gary Suter held the defense down and even scored a game-winning goal. Vincent Damphousse and Mike Ritchie played important roles as well. This just goes to show you that in the playoffs, chemistry and trust between teammates can sometimes bridge the talent gap. The Penguins were on a historic run. Not only had they won the previous 2 Stanley Cup finals, but looked primed to three-peat, as they ended the regular season with an NHL record of 17 consecutive wins. They won the President's Trophy for the best regular season record that year and were the favorites to win the playoffs. However, they would run into the New York Islanders in the division finals and falter at the wrong time. The series was closely contested as they traded wins, with neither team winning 2 games consecutively until the final game. During Game 7, the Penguins, led by the likes of Mario Lemieux and Jaromir Jagr, had a strong lead against the Islanders as they were up 3-2. But Benoit Hogue would tie the game, sending it to overtime where David Volek scored the game-winning, sending the Penguins packing. A large credit goes to the Islanders' defenseman Darius Kasparaitis, who played a big role in slowing down elite players like Lemieux and Jagr to give the Islanders a fighting chance. Glenn Healy also pulled out all the stops as a goalie, saving 42 of 45 shots in Game 7. Looking to repeat as the champs, the Detroit Red Wings entered the 2003 playoffs as the Central Division champions, after winning the Stanley Cup the previous year, where Nicklas Lidstrom was awarded the Conn Smythe Trophy. Apart from Lidstrom, the team had the likes of Fedorov, Datsuk, and Hall, so they seemed to be in a great position to go back-to-back, especially when they matched up against the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim, who had finished as the 7th seed in the regular season. So with the match set, no one would have predicted what was going to happen next. Not only did the Mighty Ducks upset the Red Wings, but they did so by sweeping them in 4 games. But is there such a thing as a close sweep? If there is, this is it. The first game went to a third overtime before Paul Kariya scored to give the Ducks the win, while Jean-Sebastien Gurria made 63 saves. Ducks won both the next game by 1 goal each, and Game 4 went to another overtime before the Ducks secured the win and completed the sweep. The Red Wings became only the second defending Stanley Cup champions to be swept in 4 games the following year in a first-round series, after the 1952 Maple Leafs. Much of the credit goes to Giguère, who had a staggering save percentage of 96.5. In the 2010 Eastern Conference quarterfinals, things didn't start off well for the Philadelphia Flyers, as they quickly found themselves in a 3-0 hole. The Boston Bruins, on the other hand, had the start they were wishing for, with a 5-4 win in Game 1. A late third-period goal by Milan Lucic to take Game 2, and an incredible defensive effort from Tuukka Rask in Game 3 with 34 saves. However, the momentum of the series would shift in Game 4 when Simon Gagne saved the Flyers' season by scoring the game-winning overtime goal. This gave the Flyers hope and seemed to light a fire in them as they would shut out the Bruins in the next game despite Brian Boucher's injury. And after forcing a Game 7, the Flyers completed a remarkable 3-0 comeback, winning the game 4-3, which also meant they had just pulled off a 3-0 series comeback as well. They would join the Maple Leafs and the Islanders as the only teams to come back from that margin in NHL history at the time. Flyers would also be the first team to pull this off in 35 years. In 2003, the Minnesota Wild made the playoffs for the first time, and right away the team would leave their mark on the NHL. Not only did they come back from a 3-1 deficit once, they did so twice, where the second one was against the 3rd seed Colorado Avalanche. The Hall of Fame goalie Patrick Roy led the Avalanche, helping them win 3 of the first 4 games, including a Game 3 shutout, making his 23rd playoff shutout. Game 4 also saw a change in the Wild's roster as the coach, Jacques Lemaire, desperately tried to spark a comeback by replacing goalie Dwayne Rollison with Manny Fernandez, but they still lost Game 4. Perhaps the Wild's secret weapon was being down 3-1, and they started their comeback in Game 5, winning it 3-2 while taking home an overtime thrilling victory in Game 6, where Richard Parks scored his second goal for the Wilds. In the sports world, Game 7s are usually seen as a toss-up. No matter who the better team is or what's happened previously, all of it is thrown out the window, and it only matters who shows up that one night. Here, the Wild showcased more heart and grit, coming back from a 2-0 deficit and winning in overtime once again, this time to an Andrew Brunette goal. Minnesota Wild would complete the comeback and advance to the conference semifinals. In 1982, Edmonton Oilers were on a roll, having won their division with 111 points and putting out a roster that included the likes of Mark Messier, Yari Curry, Paul Coffey, and of course, Wayne Gretzky. In the regular season, Gretzky had broken the goals, assists, and points record and had won the Hart Memorial Trophy, so it was clear that this was Gretzky in the Oilers' year. However, Game 1 of the series would prove a foreshadow of things to come as the Oilers blew a 4-1 lead, eventually losing the game 10-8. After the Oilers tied it up 1-1, Game 3 would prove to be an instant classic and go down in NHL history as the Miracle on Manchester. There, the Kings pulled off the largest comeback in NHL playoff history, coming back from 5-0 and winning the game 6-5 in overtime. The Kings almost pulled off another comeback in Game 4 as they came back from a 3-1 deficit, but the Oilers held on to push the series to a do-or-die Game 5. This time, there would be no comebacks. The Kings took a strong lead right away, up 6-2 after the second period and won 7-4 as they eliminated the Oilers and Gretzky. Tampa Bay Lightning had an incredible regular season, where they tied the Red Wings record for the most regular season wins in NHL history. They finished the season with 128 points, along with earning the President's Trophy. They had a points percentage of .780, the second highest rate for an 82-game season. They were also the highest scoring team on average since the 1995-96 Red Wings, and of their 62 wins, 30 were by a margin of 3 or more goals, which was tied for the most since 1992-93. The Lightning had played 3 regular season games against the Blue Jackets, winning all 3 games, whose combined score was 17-3. It'd be an understatement to say the Lightning were heavily favored against the Blue Jackets in the playoffs. So it's almost impossible to tell why or what caused the historic collapse of the Lightning in the Eastern Conference quarterfinals. Perhaps they were overconfident or took the Blue Jackets lightly. Either way, the Blue Jackets came back from a 3-0 deficit in Game 1 by scoring 4 straight. They continued their momentum in Games 2 and 3 and won Game 4 by a score of 7-3. This sweep included a +11 goal differential. This would make the first time a President's Trophy winner was swept by an 8th seed. It was also the first time a President's Trophy winner was eliminated in the first round since 2012. And only the 5th time a team with the best regular season record got swept in the first round. While for the Blue Jackets, this was their very first playoff win in franchise history. What do you think? Any series we missed? Any that shouldn't be on this list?